Welcome to ZZ Talk with Zeus
and Zino.
This is the show of This is the show of two soon-to-be podcasters eventually, right? Talk about everything and anything. That's including sports, entertainment, and a heavy dose of politics. Zino, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well, man. I like this new thing that we seem to be doing of a show every 2 weeks. We might keep it that way. We'll see. But yeah, seem to be podcasters. We're learning slowly but surely how best to put that out, especially after our collab with M16 and Easy and what they do there. Just learning process. Plus, we're going to be talking to another podcaster soon. Yeah, small tease there. But yeah, I've been chill, man. Just hanging around and not much to report really. How about you? And actually, before you tell me about you, tell me about that shirt. What's going on there?
Oh, so I was on one of the Facebook pages. It was actually Pickbox 5. They posted something, right? Of course, if you've ever been on any of these news networks, comment sections, they're always toxic. But somebody posted this photo, right? But it wasn't with the colors. And it says, "Make America Great Finally." And I thought that was a dope photo. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to put my Mexican touch on it, right? So I asked him, "Hey, can you give me that shirt in green, white, and red?" So he gave it to me. He sold it to me. But anyways,
yeah, sorry, who's the person?
So it's a gentleman named Bao, B-E-A-U. How would you pronounce that?
Bao, probably.
Yeah, Bao, right? So anyways, he's the owner of Bao and Aero Sports. You can feel free to follow him at Bao Knows Boxing. That's BEAUKNOWS Boxing. I don't know how to spell boxing.
I'll put it on the screen too.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So he just owns his own like marketing kind of thing, and then I asked him about this. He sold it to me, and it was. I really enjoy it. I really do. I really like it.
That's a dope shirt, man. Yeah.
And then like the fist.
Right. Of course.
But anyways, aside from having my new shirt, I've been doing okay. I'm a little bit so as y'all know, I like to go on vacations, even during the pandemic, right? Maybe it's irresponsible, I don't know. So we were gonna go to Texas, right? My father lives there. He only gets to see the grandkids once a year. My kids are only about to be 4, so he's only seen them twice because last year didn't happen. So we're still gonna go ahead in Dallas because the thing is though, we had COVID, so hopefully maybe that makes us immune. My wife's a nurse. She knows a little bit more than me, so I'm gonna take her word for it, right? Even though Alex Jones has told me some things. But yeah, so we're gonna go but of course now they just did that whole Zeno, what did you say happened in Texas with the COVID?
Basically they've basically COVID is canceled in Texas, yes.
So it doesn't exist in Texas, right? It doesn't exist. They do everything big in Texas, and I'm assuming this pandemic they're gonna do it even bigger. So
as Dr. Fauci put it, they're spiking the football before entering the end zone. So yeah, we'll see. I hope everything.
It was lifted on 3/2. We're gonna be there around 3/9 to like 3/12. Hopefully that doesn't, nothing happens there. Hopefully everything's okay. We'll see. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We might be messing with something dangerous there,
I mean, on the bright side, they've vaccinated, I think, like 50 million Americans. I know we don't want to, get ahead of ourselves and start spreading this thing again before we curb it. But, I'm hopeful that, things will be all right as you guys travel. So,
anyway. Yeah. And then as Biden just recently announced that, what do you say, by June, that we should have enough vaccines for every adult. So
yeah, that's the expectation.
Does that include immigrants though? Like undocumented immigrants,
Yeah. I mean, they're basing the account off of the census, and the census doesn't take into account citizenship. So it's just
okay, because how some people just don't want to include them in, governors in Ohio.
No, I mean, look, immigrants are also carriers, right? So
right, yeah, they're not. But Kemp might not have known that. Remember when Kemp didn't know about
asymptomatic carrying of the disease? Yeah. All right, cool, man.
Yeah. So speaking of canceling, right? They canceled COVID in Texas. our show's gonna have to do a little bit of deal with a little bit of cancellation, right? So so in politics, we're gonna talk about CPAC, as they whimsically titled it "America Canceled" or America Uncanceled.
Yeah.
Because they're canceling cancel culture, as they like to call it. Some people call it accountability. They call it cancel culture. And that's actually going to lead into our conversation about that particular event, right? The praying to a golden calf. And that'll lead into discussing about the recent allegations against Andrew Cuomo, as well as his cover-up of a nursing with the nursing home, So we'll go into a little bit of details about that. And then recently the an Equality Act passed. Zino knows a little bit more about that, so he's definitely gonna break it down, but it has a huge benefit towards the LGBTQ community, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's gonna be our politics section. Our sports section, I know we usually do entertainment, politics, then sports. We decided to switch it up a little bit this time. We're gonna talk about politics, sports, and then entertainment. In sports, so Chris Sims has released a new QB tier that Zeno sounds to me like he's itching to talk about certain parts of that. He's shuffled the decks a little, shuffled the chairs a little bit on the deck.
Right.
LeBron,
the new number one and such.
Yeah. So LeBron was recently basically told to shut up and dribble by who?
By Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
So we're gonna talk about that. As we know, Zeus is horrible at names, so Zeno's definitely gonna be saying that name more than I am. And then baseball spring training has happened, so we're going to talk about how that affects our lovely Braves.
Mm-hmm.
And then entertainment. Spider-Man has a name. Spider-Man. Is this the third in the trilogy? Do we know if this is a trilogy?
I don't know if it's a trilogy, but it's the third in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that, and then what basically are going to have we want to discuss what does that name mean.
Yeah.
In the sense of the actual movie, right?
Yeah.
And then the Golden Globes happened, so we're gonna do a quick recap on that. Talk about that. One of the things that Zeno and I kind of want to figure out is, do those matter? Do those shows matter?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go ahead and say I feel like Golden Globe kind of shows don't matter as much as say people who were around. The word of mouth that we get from our friends, but maybe we'll see. We'll talk a little bit about the Golden Globes and these award shows. Do they really matter?
Will they influence whether we watch the shows or not? Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in our top 5, to keep in the theme of cancellation, we're gonna talk about top 5 things. It's actually only gonna be 5 because me and Zeno kind of threw this top 5 together, and so we're struggling a little bit. So it's literally gonna be 5. It's gonna be 5 between me and him. I have 3, he has 2, so we'll just go back and forth. And it's basically top 5 things that have been canceled too early. Mm-hmm. We're not going to talk about politicians being canceled too early. We're not touching that one. But we're talking about shows, movies, maybe even video games, whatever. We're going to talk about those. So real quickly, anything to add before we go into that top 5?
No, let's do it.
All right. So listen, since I got 3, I'll go ahead and start it off. We'll go back and forth. My number 3, I'm going to say, is actually the first movie happened, and they were going to launch and I think this happens a lot. I was about to say Ender's Game, but you know what? I just thought about something else. There's actually another series that I really want. So it's not going to be Ender's Game anymore. Ender's Game got canceled because the author, Orson Scott Card, is kind of anti-LGBT. He's out there, right? And then a lot of people are just like, we're not filling your words. And then other people were, and he even said it. He was like, what do my words have to do with, or at least the writers of the movie, what do his personal beliefs have to do with this movie? Because they're not in the movie, right? But Ender's Game got canceled, didn't happen. So I guess that's gonna be a quick honorable mention. Actually, the one that I want to put in there that I literally just thought about, but I freaking love this movie. Did you ever watch the new Dredd?
No.
Oh my gosh, that movie goes hard. It is a good ass movie, but the problem is it fell under the radar. So it starred, I forgot his name. He was the doctor in the new Star Trek movies.
Carl Urban.
Yes, Carl Urban.
He's in The Boys as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go. So he actually plays Judge Dredd he did a good movie. This is a good movie. It was badass. It was like really, it was noir. It stuck to the comic books, I think, a little bit better than the Sylvester Stallone was. The Sylvester Stallone is back in our day, kind of one of those movies that it's kind of like, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter kind of aspect. Like, it's probably really a bad movie, but we liked it when we were kids. But the new Dread, and they were going to try to do it into an actual series, make an actual franchise out of it, but the movie didn't do jack, so it didn't happen. So that's going to be my number 5. If you have never seen Dread, I believe it might be on HBO Max.
Okay.
I think it's definitely on one of the streaming services.
Yeah.
Definitely go check it out and come back and tell me how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it came out. I just, I don't know. I just never
sought it out. It flew under the radar for me too. I rented it one time. Back when you rented movies. I believe it was it wasn't Redbox. I was on Blockbuster online. So I got the movie, came in, popped the DVD in. Some of you kids might not know what a DVD is. Popped the DVD in, and I was like, "Yo, I hope this." And then I looked it up, and I was like, "Nope, no sequels happening." So that's
okay. All right. So the first on my list, we're not talking about any politicians, but this is a political show. It was called Commander in Chief, and it aired on ABC from 2005 to 2006, one season. It got canceled because network shows get canceled because of low ratings, and ended up watching it on Netflix, and it was such a good show. And season 1 ended on sort of a cliffhanger, and obviously it didn't get picked up for a second season, which is such a shame.
Which is the Commander in Chief star?
Huh?
Who did it star?
Oh yeah, let's get into that. So it stars Gina Davis as I think she was vice president, and then the president had some scandal and he had to resign. I don't believe he died. I think he had to resign, and she became president. And yeah, it was really good.
I think probably one of the things that did Madam Secretary come around during that time?
Madam Secretary was at least 10 years later.
Okay, then never mind.
Yeah, different network as well. I think.
No, I just meant because how sometimes some shows come out and they're the same, and then one of the shows ends up beating out the other one.
There's a good distance between the two of them, like it's something like 10 years. But yeah, Commander in Chief. I hesitate to recommend shows to people that don't actually have a proper conclusion, which this is one of them. But if you just want to watch one of those like hidden gems that don't finish, go check out Commander in Chief. I don't think it's still on Netflix, but you might find it on another streaming service. So yeah, that's mine.
Well, there you go. So that's our number.
That's number 2. Yeah.
So that's 5, 4. I mean, they're not really going in order. We're just saying top 5. I'm gonna go with the next one is actually Arrested Development. So I know Arrested Development came back out, but if you ever saw Arrested Development when it was on Fox before it got on Netflix, man, that show was flawless. That show was one of the most intelligent shows that I think has ever graced the small screen. Stars Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, other people. Those are the 2 big people that I can think of. Only reason I can think about them right now is because they actually have their own podcast with Sean Hayes, and it's like really good.
Yeah, let me list some of them because I don't think this cast should be overlooked. So Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, Michael Cera, Jeffrey Tambor. I can't remember this lady's name.
Patricia DeRossi, something DeRossi.
Yeah, not Patricia, but the one that's married to Ellen DeGeneres. Yeah. Let's see, says Michael. Nathan Hill. The guy from Veep who plays Buster Bluth.
Buster.
There's so many funny people in this cast. Even the guy who plays Tobias. So yes, we don't want to overlook that cast. It's a very funny cast.
Yeah, which you're right, because me skipping them does definitely not give them does not do a service. Jason Bateman, Portia de Rossi, Will Arnett, Michael Cera, Elia Shawkat. She was really good too. She's the one. She plays the daughter, which is like she's so good. Yeah. Tony Hale, David Cross, Jeffrey
Tony Hale, that's the name.
And Jessica Walter, and Ron Howard narrated, which actually which was really cool. So it got released on Fox. Then it got canceled for a few, actually several years, probably like a good 5 years.
It was a good longer actually. And you know, I think the Russo brothers directed the pilot.
The Russo brothers are actually very much connected to this, which kind of is crazy if you think about it, going from Arrested Development to Happy Endings to
like the
highest
MCU.
grossing novel of all time.
There's a scene in Infinity War which seems like it's straight out of Arrested Development, and that's the scene where they have Thor sprawled out on the table. The Guardians of the Galaxy like look at him. He's sprawled on the table when he's still unconscious because they just brought him in from the debris that Thanos left, and they're all having conversations, and like the camera is panning. Someone will say something. You'd have it was a thing about Chris Pratt. Oh, sorry, Star-Lord eating too many sandwiches and looking a little fat, and it was such a hilarious conversation. But the way the camera was panning and moving, and it was like right out of Arrested Development. It was hilarious.
Well, also they also said that they had Tobias's Blue Man thing in one of the pods, and where
yes.
Where Gamora, where they go fight Gamora,
where the collector,
yeah,
the collector's pods,
yeah, where the collectors, yeah. So, but when it came out on Netflix, it was still funny, it was still good, but it didn't have that same magic that it had prior to back in the first 3 seasons. So that was definitely canceled too soon.
I think Arrested Development was ahead of its time, and what I mean by that is, when I watched it on Netflix, right? I watched the first 3 seasons before Netflix released their 4th season, and then I think a year later they released a 5th season. And I had seen the show before, like when it was going live, but remember at that time you didn't really have the option to go back and watch something. You had to DVR it and like watch it then. You didn't really have like next day on Hulu and all that stuff. So it was one of those things where if you miss it, you've missed it. And this is one of those sitcoms that you kind of have to follow through, you know, the whole season to get like the quick fire jokes. And so I think it's tailor made for streaming, and that's why I say it's ahead of its time, because if it came out during a time when streaming was, you know, the norm like it is now, I think no way Arrested Development gets overlooked the way it was when it first came out.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have gone on Fox. It would have definitely been on a streaming channel.
Yes, yeah, it's a brilliant show. So yeah, that's a good pick.
I think your next pick is kind of in the same vein, no?
My next pick is also one that was a network and then got canceled and got picked up by Netflix. But it's also political. It's called Designated Survivor, starring Kiefer Sutherland. If the premise of the show is that when they have these joint members of Congress meet up for a presidential address, you have all the members of Congress, House and Senate, go in. You have the Supreme Court's justices, and then usually one cabinet member is asked to stay behind because they want to make sure that there is continuity of government if something bad were to happen, right? And that one cabinet member is called the designated survivor. In this case, it was Kiefer Sutherland, who I think played like the transportation secretary or something like that. So, so the Capitol building blew up, killed off pretty much the entire Congress, killed off the entire cabinet members. So the designated survivor basically became president. And so it follows him kind of growing into the role, but there's also like a mystery of the season type of thing going on where they're trying to figure out who blew up the Capitol, and that's the action series part of it. It's pretty good. So as I mentioned, it got canceled by ABC, got picked up by Netflix. Season 3 was a very different feel from the other 2 seasons, but I actually really liked it. But I don't think it got a lot of
didn't they start cursing in season 3?
Yes, yes, they started cursing in it as well. But I don't think a lot of people watched it, and so Netflix didn't pick it up for a fourth season. But it's a pretty good show. So that's our number 4.
Okay. All right, there you go. So our last one is probably one that Zino has no idea, but I've touched on the show so many times because it really is an underrated gem, and it probably would be canceled now anyways because of the subject matter that they touched. But that's Titus. If you have not tried to watch the show, you can watch episodes on YouTube. Do yourself a favor. Watch them on YouTube. This show was ahead of its time. So it starred Christopher Titus. He's one of those people that, like, he's basically a comedian, right? That, you know, has a messed up life, but he somehow turns it into like comedy, you know, like turns morbid things into comedy. but they touch on some really, really dark material, but they managed to make it funny. I really don't want to talk about the material that they touched on, just because I wouldn't give it justice to explain how they could still manage to make certain subject matters funny. You know what I mean? Like certain subject matters that are just really screwed up. And if you think of any kind of subject matter that you think might be screwed up, that's probably what I'm talking about. So it was just different things, but they were ahead of their time in regards to LGBT advancement, like accepting people for who they are on that end. The father was misogynistic, but he also had like the old creed. You know what I mean? Like he would cheat on his wife, but he would never hit a woman. Like there's a point where somebody hits a woman and he's like, "You never hurt a woman, no matter what they do. It doesn't matter if they throw what's it called? If they throw a TV at you, you still never hit a woman." So it's kind of like, it's like really, it's kind of like you know what it reminds me of now? If you've seen Shameless, but funny.
Okay.
Because Shameless is funny, but there's still a lot of drama in there, right? But it reminded me a lot about that because it's more about suburban, but kind of still struggling struggling white middle class, struggling white working class. So anyways, Titus, it was really a funny show. If you have not watched that show, please watch it. I really wish it was on a streaming service, but it's not at the current moment. So you could definitely catch some episodes on YouTube though.
All right, cool. That's our top 5.
Top 5.
All right.